The coffee stain was still spreading across my dress when I saw it. Not my aunt's guilty face. Not my reflection in the mirror. Something else. Something small and white sticking out of her purse that had fallen open on the floor. An envelope. With Eleanor Sterling's handwriting on the front. And my aunt had no idea I had seen it. My name is Clara. And in the next 30 seconds, I made a decision that would change everything. I didn't scream. I didn't confront anyone. I simply bent down, pretended to pick up a tissue, and slipped that envelope into the folds of my ruined dress. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is let your enemy think they've won. If you've ever had to play the long game against someone who underestimated you, hit that subscribe button right now. Because this story is about to get interesting. Let me tell you about the woman I was supposed to call mother. Eleanor Sterling didn't just have money. She had power. The kind of power that made people nervous when she walked into a room. The kind that made judges return her phone calls and politicians show up at her Christmas parties. For 2 years, I had tried to earn her approval. I learned about her favorite flowers. I sat through her boring charity events. I smiled through every insult she wrapped in silk and delivered with a frozen smile. She called me the little librarian. She talked about my modest background like it was something to be ashamed of. She reminded me constantly that I didn't understand the Sterling way. And Julian, my fiancé, he never once defended me. He would just squeeze my hand under the table and whisper later. We'll talk about it later. Later never came. But I loved him. Or I thought I did. So I kept quiet. I kept playing nice. I kept hoping that once we were married, things would be different. I was so naive. The wedding was supposed to be perfect. 300 guests. The Sterling estate. Flowers flown in from 3 different countries. A dress that cost more than most people's cars. My Aunt Martha was there too. She was my mother's sister, always struggling with money, always looking for the easy way out. But she was family. And when Eleanor offered to fly her in and put her up in a fancy suite, I thought it was a peace offering. 10 minutes before the ceremony, Martha walked into my bridal suite with a cup of coffee, and then she poured it directly onto my dress. I gasped. The heat burned my skin. But before I could even process what happened, she leaned in close. Your future mother-in-law paid me $2,000 to ruin today. Don't blame me, Clara. A woman's got to eat. Then she grabbed her purse and tried to leave. But her purse was open. And when she turned, an envelope fell out. She didn't notice. She just walked out the door, leaving me standing there in a ruined dress with a secret in my hands. Here's what most people would have done in that moment. They would have ripped open that envelope immediately. They would have stormed out to the ceremony and made a huge scene. They would have screamed and cried and demanded justice in front of everyone. That's exactly what Eleanor was expecting. That's exactly what she wanted. A hysterical bride making accusations without proof. A scene she could spin. A story she could control. But I didn't give her that satisfaction. I opened the envelope slowly. Inside was a handwritten note from Eleanor to Martha. Every detail of the plan laid out in Eleanor's own handwriting. The amount, the timing, the instructions, even a little reminder at the bottom. Destroy this letter after reading. Martha hadn't destroyed it. She was too careless, too confident that no one would ever find out. I folded the letter carefully and tucked it into my slip. Then I took off my ruined dress and put on the backup outfit Eleanor had insisted I keep in the wardrobe. A sleek ivory suit, she said, looked more professional. She meant it as an insult. But in that moment, it felt like armor. I walked to the ceremony. Everyone stood up when they saw me. The music started playing. Julian was at the altar looking confused. His mother was in the front row looking triumphant. She thought she had won. I walked down that aisle with my head held high. I smiled at the guests. I took Julian's hands in mine. And when the officiant asked if anyone had any objections, I stayed silent. I didn't say a word about the coffee. I didn't mention the letter. I just stood there and let the ceremony continue. Dearly beloved, the officiant began. And that's when I squeezed Julian's hands and whispered just loud enough for him to hear, "I can't do this, Jean. I'm so sorry. But I can't marry into this family." His face went pale. "What are you talking about? I'll explain everything. But not here. Not like this." I turned to the guests with tears in my eyes. Real tears, but not for the reasons they thought. "I'm so sorry, everyone. I can't go through with this today. Please forgive me." Then I walked back down that aisle alone. The whispers started immediately. Poor thing. The pressure must have gotten to her. I heard she had a breakdown. Cold feet. Happens to the best of them. Eleanor played the concerned mother perfectly. She dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. She told everyone she was heartbroken for her son. She said she always knew I was too fragile for the Sterling life, and I let her believe she had won. For exactly 3 weeks. During those 3 weeks, I did something Eleanor never expected. I disappeared. I didn't call Julian. I didn't respond to his messages. I didn't make any public statements or try to defend myself. I just vanished from their world completely. But I wasn't sitting at home crying. I was building a case. See, I knew something about Eleanor that she didn't know I knew. For the past year, I had been doing Julian's personal bookkeeping as a favor. He hated dealing with numbers. So I handled the household accounts while he focused on his architecture career. And in those accounts, I had noticed things. Small things at first. Payments that didn't make sense. Transfers to companies that didn't seem to exist. Money moving in patterns that looked almost like they were designed to be hidden. I had ignored it at the time. I trusted Julian. I trusted his family. But now I had a reason to look closer. What I found made the coffee incident look like a children's game. Eleanor Sterling wasn't just controlling. She was a thief. For over a decade, she had been siphoning money from the family charity foundation. The Sterling Foundation was supposed to help underprivileged children get scholarships. It was Eleanor's pride and joy, her claim to being a good person. But the money wasn't going to scholarships. It was going to shell companies, to offshore accounts, to funding Eleanor's lifestyle while she claimed tax deductions for charitable giving. Nearly $4 million over 12 years. And I had the receipts, every single one of them. I didn't go to the police. Not yet. Instead, I made 3 phone calls. The first was to the state attorney general's office. I had a college friend who worked there. I told her I had evidence of charity fraud, but I wanted to understand my options before filing a formal complaint. The second call was to a journalist at the city's biggest newspaper, a woman named Rachel who had built her career on exposing the lies of powerful families. I told her I had a story that would make her career, but I needed her to wait for my signal. The third call was to Julian. "We need to talk," I said. "Not about us. About your mother." He agreed to meet me at a small diner outside of town, somewhere no one would recognize us. When Julian sat down across from me, he looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, wrinkled shirt. Nothing like the polished Sterling air I had fallen in love with. "Clara," he started. "I don't understand what happened. My mother said you had some kind of episode. She said the stress was too much and you needed space. But I miss you. I want to fix this." I slid the letter across the table, the handwritten one from Eleanor to Martha. He read it in silence. His hands started shaking. "She paid your aunt," I said quietly. $2,000 to pour coffee on my dress. She wanted me to have a public meltdown so she could prove I wasn't good enough for you. Julian's face went gray. "This has to be a mistake. My mother would never..." He stopped, because even as the words left his mouth, he knew they weren't true. I watched him struggle. I watched him try to find a way to defend her. And I realized something in that moment. He had always known who she was. He just never had the courage to admit it. "There's more," I said. I pulled out the folder, the bank statements, the shell company records, the evidence of 12 years of charity fraud. Julian looked at the documents for a long time. When he finally looked up at me, there were tears in his eyes. "If this gets out," he whispered, It will destroy her. It will destroy our whole family. I know. What do you want me to do, Clara? I leaned back in my chair. Nothing. I don't want you to do anything, Julian. This isn't about revenge. This isn't about making you choose between me and your mother. I'm showing you this because you deserve to know the truth about the woman who raised you. He stared at me. What are you going to do? I'm going to give this evidence to the authorities, and I'm going to let them decide what happens next. But I wanted you to hear it from me first, not from the news. I stood up to leave, but Julian grabbed my hand. Clara, wait. What if she changes? What if I talk to her and she agrees to pay everything back? And I looked at him with something close to pity. Julian, she paid my aunt to humiliate me. She stole millions from children who needed scholarships. And tomorrow she will wake up and find some new way to control and manipulate everyone around her. People like your mother don't change. They just find new victims. I pulled my hand away gently. You can stay in her cage if you want, but I won't be there with you. The story broke 2 weeks later. Rachel's article was devastating. 4 pages detailing how Eleanor Sterling had systematically stolen from her own charity for over a decade. Complete with bank records, shell company registrations, and a timeline of every fraudulent transaction. The article didn't mention me at all. I made sure of that. I didn't want to be part of the story. I just wanted the truth to come out. Within 48 hours, the state attorney general announced a formal investigation. Within a week, Eleanor was forced to step down from every board she sat on. Within a month, she was facing federal charges for wire fraud and tax evasion. The Sterling name went from golden to toxic overnight. But here's the part that surprised me. I didn't feel happy about it. I thought I would feel triumphant, vindicated, satisfied. But mostly I just felt tired and a little sad. Because Eleanor could have been different. She had money, she had influence, she could have used her power to actually help people, instead of just pretending to. She could have welcomed me into her family instead of seeing me as a threat. But she was so afraid of losing control that she destroyed everything she claimed to love, including her own son. Julian came to see me one last time. He showed up at my apartment looking like a man who had aged 10 years and 2 months. He didn't try to defend his mother. He didn't ask me to take him back. He just wanted to apologize. I spent my whole life letting her tell me who I was, he said quietly. Who to be, what to want. I thought that was love. I thought that was family. But watching her fall apart over the past few weeks, watching her blame everyone except herself, I finally understand what you tried to tell me. What's that? She wasn't protecting me, Julian. She was imprisoning me, and I let her because it was easier than fighting back. He looked at me with those sad eyes. You were braver than me, Clara. You saw who she was, and you refused to look away. I wish I had been that brave. I didn't take him back. Not because I didn't care about him. I did. Part of me probably always would. But I had learned something important about myself during those weeks of investigation and silence and careful planning. I was stronger than I thought, and I deserved someone who could see that strength without needing a scandal to open his eyes. A year later, I was sitting in my own small apartment, not in a new city, not running away from anything, just living my life on my own terms for the first time. I had started a nonprofit, a real one, helping first-generation college students navigate financial aid. I named it after my grandmother, a woman who had worked 3 jobs so her children could go to school. My phone buzzed with a message from a friend. Did you see? Eleanor Sterling took a plea deal, 2 years minimum security plus full restitution. I read the message. Then I put my phone down and went back to my work. Because here's the thing about revenge. I never wanted it. I just wanted the truth to be free. So here's what I learned. When someone powerful tries to crush you, the worst thing you can do is fight them on their terms. They want you to scream. They want you to make a scene. They want you to give them ammunition to paint you as crazy or unstable or too emotional. Don't give them that satisfaction. Stay quiet. Stay smart. Stay patient. Because the truth has a way of coming out. And when it does, the people who built their lives on lies will find that their foundations were made of sand. You don't need to destroy your enemies. Just stop protecting them from the consequences of their own actions. Keep your head high, keep your integrity intact, and keep moving forward. If this story meant something to you, drop a comment below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time, because there are more stories of quiet strength coming your way. Until next time, remember, the best revenge is becoming someone they can never control.